Hello, in this video, me and my group will be explaining about Taliban and the IRA. Okay, so before we start, let me introduce my friend first. So, me, Vasipol, number 5, will be finding information about the Taliban, and I will be the one who presenting about Taliban. And also, I'll be the one who edit this video too. And next is Pandapong number 19. He will be finding information about the IRA, and he'll be the one who presenting about the IRA in this video too. And last is Samanya number 3. He will be comparing the two groups of terrorists, and that is Taliban and the IRA at the end of the video. Okay, so let's start. Hello, my name is Wasipol number 5 from class 414. Today I will be presenting about the Taliban terrorist group and how it was formed or started. And if we're gonna talk about Taliban and how it is formed, I need to explain about the revolutionize first. Okay, so let's start. Before 1973, Afghanistan has been ruled by the monarchies, but after 1973, Afghanistan has been revolutionized, and that has caused many problems in politics, and many citizens of Afghanistan has died during the revolutionize. But in 1978, the revolutionize got worse, and there were tons of people who died during the revolutionize. Okay, so before we continue, I need to explain first that all these problems that happened during the 1973 to 1978 happened at the same time as the Cold War. And as you know, Cold War is the war that separates the world into two groups, and that is the US and the Soviet Union. And at that time, Afghanistan is with the Soviet Union side. At that time, the Soviet Union solved the problem in Afghanistan, and they saw how chaotic it was in Afghanistan at that time, so they tried to help by sending in the soldier to Afghanistan and try to overthrow the leader that has caused all these problems in the country. During the attack, the Soviet soldier managed to defeat and overthrow the old leader of Afghanistan that caused all these problems in the countries. But when the old leader was defeated, the Soviet Union elected a new leader for Afghanistan. And at that time, they tried to help and fix all the problems that has happened during the past few years. But the citizen of Afghanistan doesn't feel comfortable and unsatisfied due to the action that the Soviet Union did to overthrow the old leader. And from that fight, it has taken many people's lives during the fight. And from that conflict, there was a group that has formed to fight the Soviet Union, and that was the Mujahideen. This terrorism group was formed because they doesn't like the way that the Soviet Union did to their country, so they need to fight back. The Mujahideen and a Soviet soldier has fought several times, but in 1989, the Soviet Union has to take the pressure from UN because the UN doesn't understand why the Soviet Union needs to help Afghanistan, because they think that it was none of their business to just help Afghanistan. But in 1989, the Soviet Union has withdrawn the soldier out of Afghanistan, and then in 1991, the Soviet Union collapsed. So, according to the upper text, in 1989, the Soviet Union withdrawn the soldier out of Afghanistan, and from that situation, many citizens of Afghanistan has asked the same question, that who would become the new leader of Afghanistan. So at that time, there were many groups of terrorists that was formed to just fight over and to determine who would be the new leader of Afghanistan. And from that situation, many areas of Afghanistan has been taken over by different groups of terrorists. And one of the group that was formed is the Taliban, which is our main topic for today. I mean for me, okay? So the Taliban is the group of terrorists that was formed by the group of religious students who trust that in order that Afghanistan would develop, The only way it would develop is to change the whole country into the whole Islamic country by using all Islamic rule. Okay, so most of the Taliban are Pashtun people, and the leader of Taliban is the Mullah Muhammad Omar, which is the leader of the group. Okay, so during that time when the group of terrorists is fighting over to take over the country, it was more brutal than the time that the Soviet Union came in, and it was a nightmare for the citizens of Afghanistan. Every day there is plenty of people who has died because of the fight that has happened. But in 1996, Taliban are able to become the new leader of the country, and they are trying to do what they say. At first, people were supported the Taliban group, but when the time passes, people just realized that it wasn't good at all, and it even caused more problems than before, especially with the women, because the new law doesn't allow women in the country to study or learn. But in 1996 to 2001, Taliban failed to govern the country, and that has caused many problems to the citizens of Afghanistan. The tactic that they use is the guerrilla warfare. It was basically an attack that fight like an guerrilla that uses a fast movement speed in their advantage. They try to attack as quick as possible to surprise the enemy and to make the enemy unexpected of the attack. And also one of the common tactics they use to the enemy that know their secret is to just blackmail them or just kill them. Okay, so the famous attack of the Taliban. So first is the fall of Kabul, the capital of Afghanistan, Kabul, that has been overthrown or taken over by the Taliban. And the attack just take about 1 hour to just take over the whole city. And at that time, there was many people who tried to escape out of that place. Okay, so the second one, at that time, there was a world event that was super famous, and that was the 911 event that has happened in New York City in America. In this event, Taliban was involved in it too. From that event, it has provoked Americans to just being angry and want to destroy or take revenge on the terrorist group that has involved, and one of them is the Taliban. So the Taliban has become the main target for the Americans to attack. Okay, so in 2001, American has sent in the soldiers to Afghanistan, and in 4 to 5 months, the American soldiers are able to overthrow the Taliban and take over Afghanistan in 2002. After Americans successfully takes over Afghanistan, they think it was their duty to just help the country. And according to the upper text, American has sent the soldier to Afghanistan for 20 years from 2001 to 2021. But in 2021, the new president Joe Biden has been elected, and he has promised that if he manages to become the new president, he will withdraw the soldier out of Afghanistan because he trusts that Americans should be focused on their own country only. In 2021, American has withdrawn the soldier out of Afghanistan, but that wasn't the ending, because after all, Taliban wasn't completely 100% destroyed. They are hiding and waiting for this moment for 20 years, and that was a long time. Yep, and at that moment when the soldier of American leaves the country, Taliban immediately takes over the country, and that has made the people of Afghanistan feel fear again. They are fear of being oppressive by the Taliban. There were many people who tried to escape out of the country due to the comeback of the Taliban. Thanks. Okay, so next we'll be Panupong talking about the IRA.
I am Panupong. Today I'm gonna talking about the IRA. As for the Irish Republican Army. The Republican paramilitary organization, founded in 1919, seeking the establishment of a republic, the end of British rule in Northern Ireland, and the reunification of Ireland. The IRA used armed force to achieve the same objectives as Sinn Féin, or is called ourselves in Irish, though the two operated independently. After the establishment of the Irish Free State in 1922 as a dominion in the British Commonwealth, the IRA refused to accept its legitimacy, and violence continued despite the IRA ceasefire that ended the Civil War of 1922 to 1923. The IRA was declared illegal in 1931, and the Irish legislature provided for interment with a trial for its members. After the declaration of the Republic of Ireland and its departure from the Commonwealth in 1949, IRA activity focused on Northern Ireland. It gained popular support there in 1960s when the Roman Catholics in Northern Ireland began a civil rights campaign against discrimination by the dominant Protestant majority. In 1969, the IRA split into Marxist official wing, which eschewed violence, and the provisionals. In 1972, everything changed when 30 people were shot dead and 14 fatally wounded after the British opened fire on crowds demonstrating in Delhi and Londonderry, Northern Ireland, against anti-Catholic discrimination. In 1979, Lord Mountbatten, whom are the cousin of to the Prince Philip, and with his 3 members of his holiday, died after the IRA blew up his ship. In 1987, the IRA carried out almost 300 shootings and bombing attacks, killing 31 RUC, UDR, and British Army personnel and 20 civilians, while injuring 100 security forces and 115 civilians. In 1919, IRA attacks killed 30 soldiers and RUC members and injured 340. The IRA used terror tactics against Ulster Protestants and the British military tactics. On 24th April 1993, when the Provisional Irish Republican Army, or the IRA, detonated a truck bomb in London's financial district in Bishopsgate, City of London, England. 1 person was killed in the explosion and 44 injured, costing £350 million in that damage. After 1 year, the IRA declared a ceasefire, and its political representatives were included in multi-party talks beginning in 1997. Negotiations produced the 1998 Good Friday Agreement, or Belfast Agreement, in which the IRA agreed to decommission and disarm. A few days after the IRA made peace with the UK, a group of RIRA, or Royal Irish Republican Army, a group that split in the Provisional IRA by descendant members after the IRA peace with UK. They detonated the bomb in the center of Northern Irish City and killed 29 people, 200 to 300 injured. A year later, car bomb explodes outside BBC's London headquarters. Police says the real IRA, a Republican splitter group opposed to the IRA's ceasefire, was behind the blast. 1 man was wounded. The British government suspended the Northern Ireland Assembly in 20 and again in 22. When the power-sharing arrangement between different groups collapsed, largely over the IRA's continued existence, and refusal to fully decommission its weapons. In the ensuing years, the IRA destroyed some of its weapons, but resisted decommissioning its entire armory, hampering implementation of the peace agreement. In July 2005, however, the IRA announced that it was ending its armed campaign and instead would pursue all peaceful means to achieve its objective. According to Armed Struggle, The History of IRA by Professor Richard English, the IRA caused about 1,800 deaths between 1966 and 2001, about half of all fatalities in the conflict. Famous IRA attacks are: first, Omagh bombing on August 15, 1998, was a car bombing in the town of Omagh in County Tyrone, Northern Ireland, United Kingdom. It was carried out by a group calling themselves the Real Irish Republican Army, or Real IRA, a Provisional Irish Republican Army, IRA, splinter group who opposed the IRA's ceasefire and the Good Friday Agreement signed earlier in that year. The bombing killed 29 people and injured some 220 others, making it the deadliest single incident of the troubles in the Northern Ireland. Telephone warnings, which did not specify the actual location, had been sent almost 40 minutes beforehand, but the police inadequately moved people toward the bomb. The bombing caused outrage, both locally and internationally. Support on the Northern Ireland peace process and dealt a severe blow to the Senate Irish Republican campaign. The Real IRA denied that the bomb was intended to kill civilians and apologized shortly after. The group declared a ceasefire. The victims include people of many backgrounds and ages, like Protestants, Catholic, 6 teenagers, 6 children, a woman pregnant with twins, 2 Spanish tourists, and others on their trip from the Republic of Ireland. Both Unionists and Irish nationalists were killed and injured as a result of bombing. New anti-terrorism laws were swiftly enacted by both United Kingdom and Ireland. Second, the death of Lord Mountbatten on August 27, 1979. Lord Mountbatten and 3 members of his holiday party died after the IRA blew up his boat. Lord Mountbatten was killed at the height of the Troubles, which would still range on for another 19 years before the Good Friday Agreement was signed, and nationalist and loyalist ceasefire were initiated. Mountbatten was also an easy target. The bomb had been placed in his unguarded boat the night before his murder. He had been vacationing in the Irish town of Moorachmore throughout the 1930s and had refused security detail despite repeated threats from the Provisional IRA to assassinate him. Mountbatten had declared, "Who the hell would want to kill an old man anyway?" Third, Downing Street motor attack. The Downing Street motor attack was carried out by the Provisional Irish Republican Army, or the IRA, on 7 February 1991. The IRA launched 3 homemade mortar shells at 10 Downing Street, London, the headquarters of the British government, in an attempt to assassinate Prime Minister John Major and his work cabinet, who were meeting to discuss the Gulf War. One of the 140 pounds or 64 kilograms mortar shells exploded in the back garden of number 10 yards from the cabinet office. Due to the bomb-resistant windows, none of the cabinet were hurt. 24 other people received minor injuries, including 2 police officers. The other 2 shells all shot Downing Street and landed on the green nearby. What's the point for fighting? The IRA proposed was to use armed force to render British rule in Ireland ineffective and thus to assist to achieving the broader objective of an independent republic, which was pursued at the political level by Sinn Féin and the Irish Nationalist Party. Types of IRA attacks. It used guerrilla tactics against the British Army and RUC in both rural and urban areas and carried out a bombing campaign in Northern Ireland and England against military, political, and economic targets and the British military targets in Europe.
Okay, so next will be Samanya comparing the two groups of IRA and the Taliban.
Okay, so that leads us to the comparison of Taliban and I.R.A. Let's begin with the proposal of Taliban and I.R.A. The Taliban sought to establish an Islamic government through law and order alongside a strict interpretation of Sharia law in accordance with the Hanafi school of Islamic jurisprudence and the religious edicts of Mullah Omar upon the entire land of Afghanistan, while I.R.A. was sought to end the British rule in Northern Ireland, facilitate Irish reunion and bring about an independent and socialist. Moving on to the history part, the Taliban emerged in the aftermath of Afghan War. The Taliban emerged in aftermath of Afghan War in 1978 to 1992, facing mass displacement during the war. Many Afghans found a solidarity in the religious rhetoric of the Mujahideen resistance and opportunity in school Islamic science in southern Afghanistan and northern Pakistan, but the origin Irish Republican Army in 1919 to 1922, often now referred to as the Old IRA, was raised in 1917 from members of Irish Volunteers and the Irish Citizen Army. Overall, all these groups are from the bad condition of another country, interfering their land, people, religions, their land and culture, which will make some of people who living there are not really happy of another sovereignty, culture, change of their culture lead them do such a terrorism to show their act of oppression. Let's turn now to the type of attack that they use. Taliban are using sticky bomb and magnet bomb usually stuck to the underside of cars. Their attacks targeted Taliban members in exactly the same way the Taliban itself used to hit the official and civil society figures to destabilize the former government. And the IRA are using guerrilla tactics against the British Army and RUC in both rural and urban areas and carried out a bombing campaign in Northern Ireland and England against military, political, and economic target and British military target in Europe. The next thing that I will compare to you, but it obviously different, is the famous example of each attack that I will show one of each. The first one is IRA. Omar bombing on August 15 in 1998. IRA, or a group that spread in the provisional IRA by dissidents member after IRA peace out with UK. detonated a bomb in the center of northern Irish city, killed 29 people and injured between 200 and 300. The next one is the Taliban, the capital city of Afghanistan, Kabul, that has been overthrown or taken over by Taliban within an hour, and there was many people who was trying to escape from that place. The main reason of the bomb is to make the threat to the political enemies, although it will cost a lot of people's life, but still make the political enemy fear of their act and could lead into a peace negotiation, and the enemy could offer them what they desire. Thanks for listening.